Meditation on the body in our scriptures is seems to be a shortcut to Nibbana. Many monks, when they became monks, they meditated on the nature of the body and they become enlightened pretty fast, either observing the repulsiveness of the body or meditating on a decaying body that they saw in a so-called charnel ground. Charnel ground and cemetery are different places. Charnel ground is a place where people throw away dead bodies, and the bodies there decay. Whereas cemetery is a place where you get the dust or the bodies nicely dug in the ground and nicely covered, and so on and on. So in cemetery, you cannot really see the decaying body. In a charnel ground, you can. Because I would like to go to that place and actually make a little documentary on how this practice should be followed. So that, because, this practice of observing decaying body forms about half of our practices of insight. So we have 21, exactly 21. I count them as 22, but in fact, there are 21 practices of observing the body and the mind, 21 insight practices, and 9 of them are in the charnel ground. So removing the charnel grounds from the world has, of course, advantage. So there are less diseases and so on and on. But at the same time, it removes this like super short track, like this zoom track, this incredibly fast speed up in monks' practice towards attainment of Nibbana. And you would have like monks coming to these charnel grounds and achieving Nibbana within several days or weeks or months, very fast, like so fast. And we do not see that phenomenon with the other practices. So meditation on the decaying body seems to be one of the most effective practices in the Buddha's time. There were monks who did some other things with the bodies of various kinds, but that's the way it is. Different people do different things, but that's probably the point, of a shortcut. So shortcut can take you there where you want very fast, but it also is very dangerous. So that's this kind of meditation. So if the monk is really conscientious and really keen, then he can be very successful. Not conscientious, not keen, not careful, can be pretty bad. So that depends. But meditation on the body, it seems to be really as the most effective, most efficient, the fastest way to achieve enlightenment. Now, we will, however, talk about meditation on repulsiveness of the body in terms of the 32 parts. So in Satipatthana Sutta, which is the discourse on establishing mindfulness, we can learn about 14 practices of observing the body, 1 practice observing the feelings, 1 practice observing mental states, and yet other 5 practices observing the various phenomena. And in these 14 practices of observing the body, we have meditation on breath, meditation on postures, meditation on various activities of the body, like stretching, flexing hands and legs, and so on. Then we have there meditation on the 32 parts of the body. Then we have their meditation on the 4 elements, and finally 9 kinds of practices in the charnel ground. And you will be now learning the meditation on 32 parts of the body. You will not be practicing it at all, so please don't practice what I'm going to tell you. You need to write down notes and get ready for this practice after about 2 days. So you still have 2 complete days for loving kindness practice. And so during these 2 days, upcoming 2 days, you should not practice meditation on the body. But on the 3rd day from now on, you will start. You will have 1 day for 32 parts and 1 day for 4 elements. In this practice of observing 32 parts of the body, the purpose is to see that all of the parts of the body are the same in terms of 3 characteristics. 3 characteristics here mean that they are changing, they are dangerous, and they're out of control. Okay. Changing, dangerous, out of control. So as you meditate on the body, we do not try to think, to reason, why is this changing, dangerous, out of control? Be careful. You don't try to think of the different diseases and so on. We will be talking about that here, but the point here is that after we talk about it, you already accept it. So you don't need to persuade yourself that it's true. Okay, this persuading that it's true, that's what we do here together. Okay, what you do in meditation is just reminder. You remind yourself, okay, hair is what? Changing, dangerous, out of control. Body hair is what? Changing, dangerous, out of control. So you only remind yourself that this is the truth and accept that part of the body with which you work. So before we even start with the parts of the body, I would like to note here that in the body there are many microbes. There are many bacteria, many kinds of bacteria, many kinds of viruses. According to our scriptures, there are 80 families of microbes. According to the scientists, there are about 10,000 species of microbiome, but that doesn't really say that someone is wrong or right. It just shows that the scriptures or the masters who came up with this number 80 counted them in a different way. 1 to 3% of your body's weight is actually the weight of the bacteria and viruses. And about 10%, about 10% of your body's cells are actually the bacteria. Okay, if we took the bacteria and the cells and we counted them up all together, we would come to the ratio 10 to 1, 10 for the cells and 1 for the bacteria and viruses. So quite a lot. Okay, let's get to the hair. So you have hair. How will you meditate on that? So you consider, oh, there is hair, and the hair is. The hair is changing. That means it is changing its shape. It is changing its color. It is changing the places where it grows, where it doesn't grow, and so on and on. So a hair changes. It is dangerous because it can harbor various little animals such as lice, and therefore it may cause disease. And it is also out of control. That means that I cannot decide whether the hair grows here, grows there, does it grow long or short, or does it grow at all, and so on. So this is hair. Body hair. Body hair, when you meditate on hair, you first consider, okay, hair is changing, dangerous, out of control, and you consider where is hair. Not the hair out of the head, but the hair out of the head plus the roots, because sometimes you have roots, but not the hair there. So you want to consider all of the places where is the potential for having hair. Okay, so we are considering the nature of the body that it can produce hair, plus the fact that some hair is produced. When you go, and you can consider it like the top of the head, the back of the head. Now, when you go to the body hair, you consider again that it's changing, dangerous, and out of control, and you consider it part by part in the way that you considered muscles. That means you say, for example, neck. Okay, so you can say eyes, nose, lips is the mouth, and then the chin, cheeks, ears, back of the head, neck, shoulders, arms, and so on, all the way to the tips of the toes, because those are places where hair may grow. Then we have nails. As for nails, we again consider nails are changing, dangerous, out of control, and we consider them on the fingers and then on the toes. So you do not go throughout all of the body if the part of the body is only in certain places. As for nails, nails are changing. They sometimes grow, sometimes don't grow, sometimes grow in a certain way, sometimes in another way. Sometimes the nails grow. Yeah, sometimes they're not healthy. Sometimes they're attacked by various diseases. Like in this case, it's attacked by the so-called onychomycosis, which is apparently a kind of fungus. Teeth. Again, we consider teeth as changing, dangerous, out of control, and we consider teeth only in the mouth. You can start by the upper jaw and then lower jaw. Teeth have their structure, so they have their enamel, they have their pulp, and we consider that fact that they may cause pain, that they may grow where in a wrong way, that they may grow and cause pain. Already when we were kids, they grew and they caused a lot of pain. And when we are adults, they also cause sometimes pain. And you may like to know that teeth are different from bones. Teeth are not bones, actually. In fact, teeth are closer to skin in their nature rather than to the bones. That's because, for example, bones, when they get broken, they can repair themselves, but teeth cannot repair themselves. So when teeth are attacked by caries or cavities or by periodontal disease or anything of that, then it is not possible to have them regrow. Instead, the dentist will apply implantates. He will apply, or she, something to replace those teeth to maintain the appearance. Okay, now we are going to look at skin. So skin has several layers, and it contains special corpuscles, as if like little organelles, which make sure that when you touch something, then you can actually recognize what you actually touch. Okay, skin also, according to the situation, decides its color. So if it is too hot, if there's a lot of sun, an area with a lot of sun, then the skin creates so-called melanin, and this melanin protects the skin from the radiation, from the sun's radiation, and that's where the skin becomes darker. If you live in countries where it's not so much of sunlight, then the skin does not have to protect itself, and instead it needs to be more receptive to the sunlight. And therefore there is less melanin, and that's where it becomes lighter. So it's not I who has skin like this or you who has skin like this. No, it's genetically and environmentally caused as it is. Skin comes with various diseases. For example, acne, I think everybody here knows. Herpes is so far officially incurable. It cannot be cured, but sometimes it appears. Sometimes this virus is hidden in the nerves, and then it later appears again. Then vitiligo is the discoloration of the skin, which it seems has its remedy. Cutaneous horn is a specialty here, not very common, but sometimes the skin hardens and grows hardened more and more and more until it actually grows into a horn or into a little spike, depending on the place and depending on the nature. So this is what the skin may do. It seems people usually appreciate when this happens, and moreover, it's easy to remove it. But the point here is that, again, the skin does its thing. It's not according to our control, according to our wish, not at all. So these were 5 parts of the body. Okay, so we went very fast through hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin. All right. Again, hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin. Now we will be looking at muscles. We'll spend some time with muscles because you meditate on muscles also other time, and they're very interesting. So we have 3 kinds of muscles. Skeletal muscle is the muscle that's attached to the bones via sinews, tendons. You have cardiac muscle, that's the muscle of the heart, and then smooth muscle, and the muscle especially of the intestines. We will consider here only skeletal muscle. All right, because cardiac muscle will come later when we talk about heart, and smooth muscle will come also later when we talk about the intestines. Therefore, we are here going to talk only about skeletal muscle. And you will meditate on skeletal muscles and sinews as at the same time, even though they're 2 separate things. Muscles are made of muscle fibers. In fact, muscles are made up of muscle fascicles, and these fascicles are made up of smaller fascicles, and these are made up of yet smaller fascicles, and they are made up of fibers. In order that you can actually use your muscles, there must be electric signal, and that electric signal then yes, and that electric signal then makes certain chemicals come in, and they make very, very tiny and thin fibers within the muscle fibers to contract and to expand. So we have here these filaments, and as they alternate, they move in and out based on the chemical reaction that comes from your nerves. Okay, so this is the process in very brief. It should be enough to understand the nature of how the muscles work. Again, it's not really us who are the muscles. They're not really mine. It's just a process of the muscle contracting and expanding. Now we are looking at the top of the head. So during your meditation practice, you start with the top of the head, and I like to call it the flat piece of sinew because indeed it's a flat piece, and the sinew is here represented by the white color. Then we continue to the forehead, eyes. Here you see them from outside, from inside. Here you may notice the little white piece, that's the sinew that attaches this muscle to the bone. Then we get the muscles around the eyeballs. Then we have the muscle of the nose, muscle of the mouth, which helps us to chew. So this is the so-called masseter. There are more chewing muscles, but this one is the strongest and very powerful. And then we have tongue. On the tongue, we have so-called taste buds, and they look like this. Now we move on to the neck. So in the neck, we have many muscles, as you can see. But we have there, for example, sternocleidomastoid, which is very long. It starts from behind the ear all the way until the sternum. And then we have the platysma, which is rather flat muscle that covers the neck. Now we are going to look at the vocal cords. So we have here a vocal cord. We have actually two vocal cords, but one is very prominent. Here it is. So this is the vocal cord. These are actually small flat pieces of tissue, and they touch and then separate, touch and separate, touch and separate. As they touch and separate very fast, they create a pressure in the air and thus create the sound. The vocal cords are located over here. So we are moving very, very fast. I think it's pretty good that it's recorded. If there's something I have went through too fast and you just didn't even notice, you can look at the recording, slow it down or stop it there, and so on and on. And we're looking at the back muscles. So in the back muscles, to remember easier, I like to see the trapezius, the upper part, as rather quadrangular. That means similar to the square. And then right below it, there is another large muscle, which is more or less triangular. You see, so this one is more like a triangle, and the one up is actually rather like a square. So we have trapezius, then we have latissimus dorsi, and there's another small muscle between these two, and it's called rhomboid. There are some other muscles as well. Now we look at the arms. In the arms, we have biceps, triceps. Bicep means that it has two heads that attach the muscle to the bone by the sinews. Again, here the white portion are the sinews. Triceps has 1, 2, 3 heads that attach the muscle to the bone. In the forearm, we can notice quite a large number of muscles that help the forearm with its hand. They help the hand to flex and stretch. Now we have the palm. As for the palm, there are yet again muscles. Notice that in the fingers, we do not really have muscles. We have there only the tendons. Okay. Now we're at the belly. The belly right in the middle, there's a midline called the white line, linea alba. If you cut into this linea alba, which is what surgeons do, for example, during cesarean cut, during the birth method called cesarean cut, no blood is going out. That's the very special thing in the white line, in the linea alba. Otherwise, the belly is covered by an aponeurosis, a kind of like covering tissue, which we already saw at the top of the head. It is also aponeurosis. The belly muscles are very complicated. They have 3 layers. I try to show them here. And inside the belly, actually, there's another muscle. It's called diaphragm. This diaphragm pushes the lungs, and as it pushes the lungs, we breathe out. Then the diaphragm relaxes down, and that's how we breathe in. So breathing in and breathing out is actually neither the work of the nose or of the lungs. In fact, it is the work of the diaphragm. So here we see the diaphragm. And here we see how it looks more in reality. It looks like a large dome with an interesting heart-shaped white sinew portion. Okay, now the buttock muscle is called gluteus maximus because it is big. And indeed, if you look at it, it has a huge a relatively huge tendonal structure which reaches almost to the knee. And this is from front, this is from back, the same thing. This is the gluteus maximus, the large muscle. You also have hamstring. Hamstrings are easy to rupture during gymnastics. So if you do gymnastics, you need to be careful. We have here some other muscles in the thigh. So here's the hamstring, we just saw it. Then we have quadriceps. Quadriceps has 4 heads that attach the muscle to the bone. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. This one is the rectus femoris, which actually means the straight muscle. And we are looking at the calves. In the calves, we can see that there are, again, quite a few muscles, but one of the very prominent is the gastrocnemius. That's the fat muscle here at the back. And again, like in the case of the hands, of the forearms, we have there many muscles in our feet and lower leg that help the foot to stretch and flex. Muscles also undergo diseases, for example, cramp and myasthenia gravis, which basically damages the nerve endings, and because the brain signal to the muscles does not really get there where it should, then the muscles don't do the work that they should. Myasthenia gravis sometimes appears in the body, and it automatically stops after some time, or it reduces. Now we have the tendons. So we already saw quite a few tendons, and here we see that the tendons actually have very similar structure to the muscles, but tendons are much harder. Tendons can rupture, and that could be a pretty bad problem. So these are muscles. We went through hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin, muscles, tendons. For today, we have yet to go through bones and bone marrow. So let's see if we how far we can get. So we have skeleton, and the skeleton is made up of muscles, but the muscles sometimes break and sometimes become weaker as we get older and older. Now the skeleton's topmost part is the skull, but the skull is actually not a bone. The skull is in fact a collection of bones. So if we look at the skull very carefully, we will see that actually skull is made up of many smaller bones. If you look at here, for example, here you have one bone, and here you have another bone, and here you have yet another bone, and so on and on. For example, if you look at the eyes, you see that the eye sockets are actually made up of small pot shard-like portions. All right, so now we are going to look at the difference between the male-female skull. The male skull is rather angular. Sorry, it is. What's the point here? So in men, the forehead is oblique. Okay, so here the forehead is gradually receding, whereas here the forehead is rather vertical. And the glabella and frontonasal suture are more pronounced. So we can, yes, we are now, that one I don't understand, but we can look at the supraorbital rim. That's the rim above the eye. So that is more pronounced than in the female, where it is almost missing. In women, on the other hand, the forehead is straight, the glabella is delicate, and the supraorbital rim is subtle or even absent. If we look, for example, at the chin, male chin is angular, and the female chin is circular. In other words, what I want to show here is that we do not really choose how the bones look like. This is how they appear. Just like this body appears the way it appears without our control, without our power, without our design. We did not design how it should appear. We did not decide where it should appear, which way. It also disappears without our design, without our decision, without our freedom to decide anything. Then we have the skull. So the skull has these like stitches, and these stitches for a baby, for example, they look a little different, and gradually they develop as the person becomes adult. Now here we have the lower jaw. Lower jaw has a problem because sometimes it gets dislocated. If it gets dislocated, you basically can do nothing. You cannot even like talk, even close your mouth. But it is possible to see a doctor, and the doctor can help. This is the lower jaw. Notice there is no bone inside. There is no bone inside the lower jaw, and it resembles a horseshoe. Now we're going to look at the skull from below. Here we have foramen magnum, the large hole through which the spine comes in. Now here's the eye socket, and here's the nose. So nose is not really a big portion of the bone. There's a lot of cartilage, but in fact, what we call nose in bones is actually very little bit, not something big prominent. Now the nose contains nerve fibers which receive the data from the smell that gets into the nose. Believe it or not, here we are actually looking from front, and here we are looking from inside the skull. And here, as you can see, there's a little sieve-like or structure with many small holes. And through these holes come those nerves that then receive the data from smell. Ear hole is very interesting point, a very, very interesting thing, because ear hole looks like our ear hole, but actually it's not a hole. Well, it's in a way it's a hole, but it doesn't lead you directly to the brain. There, in fact, is a wall. There, in fact, is a wall. It's not, there's no perforation. As you have there, the structures of the hearing organ. You have some of those structures outside of the wall, and some are inside. This cochlea contains a very special system that helps receive the pressure of the air from outside, clarified by the stapes and anchors, which basically beat over the wall that separates this portion from that portion. And based on the frequency of this beating, the cochlea then decides what, then gets the data, sends it to the to the brain, and the person then can recognize the sound. And now we're looking at the bottom of the skull from inside of the skull. You can see that the skull accommodates the brain very well. The problem with the brain is that because the brain basically floats in a fluid in the brain, if you have a concussion, if you like hit your head, even if you do not injure your skin or your bone, the brain cracks into its walls, into the walls of the skull, and it may be damaged anyway. So that's why we need to be very careful about the head. Now there are these cavities, sinuses. So cavity is a hollow a hollow space, it means that there is nothing inside the bone. So there are spaces in the bone of the skull, which are just empty spaces. There is nothing inside them. Although they have a lining, there's a little fleshly lining. This a fleshly lining may swell when we catch cold. We have four, let's call them pairs of these sinuses. So we have one pair to the left, right from the nose, one in the neck, and one behind. So here's another picture like that. So we have here the lining, or you could call it the wallpaper of the forehead hollow space. Similarly, we have wallpapers by the sides of the nose. Okay. Now here you see again the hollow spaces and how they may look like. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Although they are mostly pairs, so you have like sinuses in the forehead, sinuses behind the nose, and next to the left to the right of the nose. Between the nose and the sphenoidal sinus, you have actually tiny little so-called suprabular cells, which are also sinuses, but there are quite a few. And here we are looking at it without the bones. So here, this is the forehead. This is the left-right sinus for the nose. Right behind the nose, we have these tiny little suprabular cells, and behind them we have yet another pair, the fourth pair of sinuses. Okay, now we are looking at the vertebra. The vertebra is made up of vertebra, which have small spikes, and they're a little confusing when it comes to okay, well, that's fine. Yes. So that's the way how they are. So we have here the spikes, and here we have the nerves and the spine. So the spine goes through the holes in the vertebra, and between each vertebra there is a so-called spinal disc. The spinal disc is like a cushion. It is soft, and it seems it contains a liquid. When we get older, sometimes these cushions rupture, and because they rupture, they do not provide the softness for the movement. And also there are some nerves, and these nerves are also causing an extraordinary pain to the person who suffers. For example, uh, a problem with their spinal discs in their neck. It's also called
cervical spondylitis.
Yes. I'm not sure. I think it's called cervical. Let me see if I have it here. Yes, these are the cervical discs. But there's I don't think it was spondylitis. I think it's called cervical herniation. But why don't I remember anymore? It doesn't matter. So the main point here is that our spine works based on various conditions, and we do not have power over these conditions. So again, here, the bones, they are changing, dangerous, and out of control. Now we have here the spine. This it contains 33 bones, and these 33 bones are then further separated into various kinds based on in which part of the body they are found. Here we have the clavicle and the scapula, both of them in the shoulders. Here we have the connection between the arm bone and the scapula. the connection is very insecure. It's based on rather soft tissue, and that's why sometimes there happens the dislocation of the femur of the this one is humerus. As for the thigh, it's much better. It is very securely placed in the pelvis, although it does not allow, therefore, for such a freedom movement. Here I want to show the similarity between the hands, between the arms and legs. You see both of them get from the trunk by one larger bone, and then you have two thinner bone, and then you have quite a few small bones in the wrist and in the heel, and then we get many muscles making up the fingers and toes. So I'm going to show you the arm bone. So we have here the humerus, and to the humerus is attached radius and ulna. So ulna is the one that links on the on the humerus in this way, whereas radius is this rather thinner bone that is only attached to it. It doesn't really grasp it. So these are wrist bones, quite a few of them. And then now we are going to look at the rib cage and the sternum. So this is the sternum. The sternum, interesting, is the xiphoid process, which is the little spike here at the bottom. And this one can easily be broken, for example, during giving CPR. That's the first aid if you don't do it properly. So again, we have the sternum over here. Now the ribs, we have 24 ribs, and some of these 12 pairs do not really touch back, the other ribs. Two of the lowest pairs don't really get connected to any of the any muscles. So this is the sternum. Okay, now we're looking at the pelvis. My point here with pelvis is the tailbone. So some people take tailbone as the proof of evolution. I personally find tailbone as a very safe measure for us when we fall on the floor. And in Buddhism, we don't really believe in evolution. We believe in de-evolution. We believe that originally there were beings who were shining and pure, and then gradually they got worse and worse. They got more and more greed, later also hatred, ignorance. And as they got worse and worse in their ethics, in their speech and action, as in their attitudes, in their defilements, their body became coarser and coarser, and this is what the body became. Here, according to the evolution theorists, we are one way or another related to the monkeys, to the shrews, to bats, and even to rabbits and mice. Now, this is the distinguishment between the male and female pelvis. I want to show you here that the female pelvis has a larger hole for the baby to exit the mother's body. The pelvis is also different from according to the region. So if you get like Caucasian, rather European American pelvis has a certain degree of angle, whereas the Asian pelvis has another degree, another angle. And we're looking at the sciatica. This is the sciatica nerve. It's a very large nerve that goes from the lower back all the way basically until the feet. And this sciatica gets squeezed when you meditate. It gets squeezed by the back, by the, I think they're the lumbar bones. And because it gets squeezed, well, then it doesn't work. And that's where you feel numbness. after meditation, if you sit nicely in the mermaid's posture and you take yourself for yourself about 3 minutes to enjoy your peace, then in the meantime, these will regenerate and bring peace as well. And we're looking at the legs. We already saw this. Commented on that. Here are the holes. In the upper hole is attached the thigh. Now we are looking at the femur. All right, femur is the main bone of the leg, and this is how it looks like from front and how it looks like from behind. Now we are looking at the knee. The knee is not really attached by a bone structure. Instead, it is actually attached only by the yes. So it's not attached to the knees. That's what I wanted to show. Then we have this tibia and fibula. Tibia is the rather thicker bone that contains the ankles. Fibula accompanies, and probably yes. Wow. So the tibia and fibula are interesting in the fact that they make up your ankles. So whatever you thought that ankles are, if you ever thought ankles are separate bones, they are not. Then we have the various bones in the feet, and we're actually going to finish very, very soon. Very nice. I'm so happy about it. So we have then the various bones in our feet. Notice that they are similar to cubes. That's why they're called cubical bones, or also known as tarsals. But then we have other bones and yet other bones that make up the toes, known as metatarsals and phalanges. Bones also go through quite a few diseases. One of them that's commonly experienced by humans are so-called calcaneus spurs. So these actually create a little spike either below or above the heel bone, and they create a huge suffering. They create a horrible discomfort which cannot be removed. So the person just has to go through that suffering. I was always wondering how is the foot, why is the foot so arched as the bone, but not in the reality? The foot is not so arched in the reality because it is filled by quite a few muscles. So these are bones. Now we will be looking at bone marrow. We have two kinds of bone marrow. We have red bone marrow that creates the blood, and yellow bone marrow that creates fat. Now this bone marrow is inside bones. So the bones produce blood. The bones produce fat. Okay. We will see the red bone marrow rather in the heads of the bones, and the fat in the rather shaft-like parts of the longer bones. This is how the bone and the bone marrow inside look like. The point here is that the bone marrow is connected with the outside world through its tiny veins and arteries. Okay, so this is what we've had. Let me see if we can make a tiny little or very short review. We had hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin. Then we had the muscles, over here. So these are all muscles. And then we had muscles and tendons. And then we had bones. and we went all the way until the end of bones. So this is all. I think this is all what I wanted to tell you today. Do you have any question, anything you'd like to tell me? I'm happy to see Hema today. So Hema, how are you doing the last day? Was it better? Was it the same?
Yes, no, it was much better. I just needed that back support to sit and like properly meditate. So it was very well done.
I can see that you meditated 5 hours in sitting, 1 hour in walking. Did you separate it by those 30 minutes?
Yeah, all the only two sessions were of 1 hour each. Other than that, all the sessions were of 30 minutes each.
Okay. And did you have there any so I see now you had like 15 minutes percentage of pain, which is very different from previous time. Can you tell me what was the main, let's say, two main things that you have done which decreased the pain?
So that pain was majorly like while I was sitting and meditating, there was hardly any pain, like just a couple minutes. So not even a couple, like just a couple minutes at the max, like just a few sensations here and there. Because I was properly sitting with the back support and also with a stool to support my feet. So I made sure that my body is comfortable, like my back is comfortable. Even if I'm sitting on the chair, there's like the stool is at the proper height, my chair is at the proper height, so even my thighs won't pain at all. So I made sure my posture is correct, and the pain that I had was only during the time I did the walking meditation. That was like because of that was also like because of physical reasons, because of my body weight. I'm not used to walking. So while I was walking, that I experienced pain then.
Okay. Then so you were meditating on the 5 beloved people, right?
No, I just started meditating only on peace, not on five
Peace.
people.
Okay.
Like the previous step.
Sure. That's all good. And it seems that you have achieved 85% of peace within those 6 hours. Well done. And okay, so you can move on to loving kindness. You previously already chose your 5 beloved people, right?
Yes.
Yes, so please do not send them to me again. You remember them? Did you write them down somewhere?
Yes, I do.
So you can start meditating according to the instruction. Are you clear about the instruction on the beloved people?
Yes, I'll just go through the recording of that day once again and then I'll start.
Yes, very well. Asoka?
Yeah, Bande, thank you so much for the teachings. Actually, I just wanted to understand the purpose of the 32 body parts meditation. Do we have to like understand in depth of every human part, like it was explained, like know in and out of it to do the meditation effectively? Like,
It seems that better understanding of the parts helps because you then do not have so much doubt that maybe, for example, uh, you would be meditating on bile, and you would be able to better understand where it's bile rather than where it is not. You know, for example, thinking about the heart, imagining the
yeah.
heart by the left side here, where it is not, or by the right side here, where it is not. You see, you may have some kind of insecurity. You may feel like I'm not really sure whether I'm doing it well. You know, it seems that if you're not accurate, it doesn't matter because in the scriptures also they're not really accurate in their anatomic descriptions. And the Visuddhimagga, the great guide of meditation teachers, that was probably written by the 5th century after Christ, and that's sometimes the very essential source for meditation teachers today in Theravada Buddhism. It actually describes these body parts in pretty much detail, in a lot of detail. So that's why I like to describe them to you too, although I'm describing them to you according to the modern explanations rather than the old ancient explanations that have been rejected. So some of them, most of them are fine, but some of them are not. Is it clear?
Yeah, thank you, Bante.
Yes. So the purpose is to see that all of the body parts are the same. As soon as the body parts are the same, you will not have appreciation for any of them more than the other one. For example, you will not think that, for example, the feces are worse than the eyes, or that the heart is better than the intestines, and so on. You will see that all of the parts of the body have the same value. And that is the value that's practical for this body to happen, but that's all. So what happens usually when you have like disease, then you worry that this part of the body is worse and the other one are better. And that's where you're disappointed with that part of the body, or you are sad, and so on and on. But rather than being sad that there is a disease, we need to understand that that's part of this body. The disease itself is part of this body. Okay, it's an integral, essential nature of this body, that it arose the way without, our design, without our power, and it also will gradually disappear without our design, without our power. So the body does whatever it wants, not what we want.
But Bante, one quick question, like, so there might be some association with the karma as well, right? Because the body changes, it's dangerous, it's out of control, but at the same time, somewhere related to our karma in this life as well, or previous life.
That's right. But karma is all about probabilities. So we do not really have much power over that. We have only probability power. That means we increase or decrease probabilities. We do not really decide when something will happen or how it will happen. So if we do good deeds, there's a higher probability that we will be happy this life or next life. But whether we will be happy this life or next life, or the life after 1,000 lives, we don't know. Therefore, we do only good deeds. You see, if you do only good deeds, well, then it's pretty easy. But if you do sometimes good deeds, sometimes bad deeds, well, then that's a pretty hard math, because then you don't really know when will come what. And the problem here, the suffering in this world here, is that sometimes yes, that we have done good deeds and bad deeds in the past. And that's why it's pretty hard to predict whether we will be happy or not, even if all of the life we do only good things. So the Buddha suggests that we escape from this cycle of rebirth that only decides about us, and we do not decide about it. Any more questions? Anything you'd like to say?
No, Bante, thank you so much.
So I think we can move on to the 8 precepts. So you can, Masu Yadanamyai can share the screen, and I would like to ask everybody to unmute. Yamahang vadami tang vadetha.
Aham
Aham
bhante.
Tisaranena saha.
Tisaranena saha.
Atanga samanagatam.
Atanga samanagatam.
Ubosatha silang.
Ubosatha silam.
Dhammang yajami.
Dhammaya jami.
Anuggahang katva.
Nugankatva.
Tilang detha me bhante.
Irandita me bande.
Anukampang upadaya.
Anugambang ubadaya.
Dutiyampi aham bhante.
Dutiyambi aham bande.
Tisaranena saha.
Tisaranena saha.
Attanga samanagatam.
Atanga samanagatam.
Ubosatha silang.
Ubosatha silam.
Dhammang yajami.
Dhammaya jami.
Anuggahang katva.
Nugankatva.
Tilang detha me bhante.
Irandita me bande.
Anukampang upadaya.
Anugambang ubadaya.
Tatiyampi aham bhante.
Atiyambi aham bande.
Tisaranena saha.
Tisaranena saha.
Attanga samanagatam.
Atanga samanagatam.
Ubosatha silang.
Ubosatha silam.
Dhammang yajami.
Dhammaya jami.
Anuggahang katva.
Nugankatva.
Silang Teta Me Bhante,
Ilandeta me bande,
Anukampang Upadaya.
Anukam ubadaya.
Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Buddhang Saranang Gacchami, Dhammang Saranang Gacchami, Sanghang Saranang Gacchami.
Buddhaṃ saranam gacchāmi, Dhammam saranam gacchāmi, Sangham saranam gacchāmi.
Dutiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami.
Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saranam gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Sangham saranam gacchāmi.
Tatiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami.
Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saranam gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Sangham saranam gacchāmi.
Saranaгаmanang Paripunnang
Amabandi.
Panadipada Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Panatipata Vedamani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Adinadana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Adinadana Vedamani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Abrahmacharya Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Abrahmasariya Vedamani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Musavada Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Musavada Vedamani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Surameraya Majjapamadatthana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Sura Miraya Mirja Pamadatthana Vedamani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Vikala Bhojana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Vikala Bhojana Vedamani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Nacha Gita
Nachakita
Vadita
Adita
Isukadasana
Visukadasana
Mala Gandha
Malagantha
Vilepana
Vilebana
Dharana Mandana
Dharana Mandana
Vibhusanathana
Vibhusanathana
Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Vedamani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Uchchasayana Mahasayana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Uchasayana Mahasayana Vedamani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Tisaranena Sadheng Attanga Samannagatang Uposata Silang Dhammang Satukang Surakkitang Katva Appamadena Sampadeta.
Amavandi.
May you be happy, may you be healthy, may you soon attain the eternal bliss of Nibbana.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.